Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been leading teams, divisions, or literally entire companies lately, you already know the pressure is higher than it's ever been. And today, we're going to explore a massive fundamental shift that's happening right under our feet. Leadership is no longer a personality score. It's not about relying on intuition or, going with your gut feeling anymore. Today, leadership is actually about structural engineering. It's about building the exact right conditions where decisions are crystal clear, work is highly focused, and your risks are completely visible. So here is our blueprint for today. We're going to hit the re-engineering imperative, dive into the 4 architectural pillars, look at some real-world case studies, map out a 90-day roadmap, and finally, look at the future blueprint. Let's get building. Okay, part 1, the re-engineering imperative, or how we go from gut feeling to system architecture. I want you to really ask yourself this right now. Would your current leadership system still perform well under immense, relentless pressure? Because today's enterprise operates in a VUCA environment, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The old models of decision-making, you know the ones where a group of people sit around a heavy mahogany table and debate until the highest paid person's opinion just kind of wins out. That simply cannot keep up with the sheer velocity of modern markets anymore. We are seeing a total shift away from the 20th century model of the leader as this solo decision maker toward the 21st century model of the system architect. The old way was intuition-led. It was isolated. It relied on this super rigid top-down hierarchy. But the new way? It is data-informed, it's augmented by AI, and it relies on dynamic mesh networks. The absolute best leaders today, they don't just sit there making choices, they architect the systems that allow the best choices to surface automatically. That cuts response times drastically and gets whole divisions aligned with total clarity. And the stakes for making this shift are absolutely critical. According to McKinsey, 87% of senior executives say poor decision-making is the #1 cause of strategy failure. Think about that for a second. Nearly 9 out of 10. You could literally have the best product in the world, an amazing team, killer marketing, but if the architecture of how you actually make decisions is flawed, the whole strategy is going to fail. We've got to move beyond cognitive biases and bounded rationality into a structured, data-driven approach. Which brings us to part 2, the 4 architectural pillars. Let's look at the actual blueprint framework. So these are the 4 load-bearing pillars of modern decision intelligence. We've got data infrastructure and trust, agentic workflow integration, humanics and critical judgment, and organizational adaptability. Every single successful AI-accelerated enterprise out there balances these 4 pillars to function properly. We really need to unpack these one by one because if you miss even one of these, the entire structure can just collapse. All right, pillar 1 is your data infrastructure and trust foundation. The golden rule here has never changed. Garbage in, garbage out. AI is only ever going to be as good as the data fueling it. Organizations have to prioritize data quality and governance layers before they even think about buying some flashy new AI tool. We're talking about building really high-integrity pipelines that move raw data into data warehouses and enterprise lakehouses, using tools like Snowflake or Databricks, for example. Because honestly, if your leaders don't trust the data, they won't trust the AI recommendations, and they'll just revert right back to their gut feelings. And that trusted data is exactly what feeds into pillar 2, agentic workflow integration. We're moving way beyond AI that just spits out some generated text. We're talking about agentic AI. These are systems capable of autonomously executing multi-step workflows. Imagine an AI that doesn't just predict a supply chain disruption, but actually, scratch that. It actively researches the alternatives, requests new quotes, and drafts the purchase orders, literally just waiting for your final approval. Your job as a leader is to design these systems with really clear human-in-the-loop checkpoints so you can automate that cognitive grunt work safely. Now, if the idea of autonomous AI makes you sweat a little about being replaced, well, pillar 3 is for you, humanics and critical judgment. The absolute crucial point here is that AI does not replace executive judgment, it amplifies it. Think of it kind of like a fighter pilot with advanced avionics. The pilot is still the one flying the plane. We still desperately need the irreplaceable human elements: empathy, ethical nuance, creative vision, and stakeholder trust. In fact, as AI takes over the heavy analytical lifting, the best leaders are going to differentiate themselves by how well they connect with their people and navigate complex, messy human variables. And pillar 4 is organizational adaptability. Look, a decision isn't over just because you made it. That's literally just the beginning. You have to execute the decision, track the actual outcomes at strict 90-day intervals, and then review the results through established feedback loops.
The enterprise has to continuously learn from both its AI outputs and its human judgments to stay agile. If you aren't logging your decisions and tracking their actual impact in the real world, you just aren't a learning organization. Simple as that.
Let's move to part 3, real-world implementation and friction. Time for some case studies and dilemmas. Let's step out of the theory for a second, because what's really interesting here is how this actually plays out in the wild. On the success side, case study A, you have Walmart using machine learning to power their inventory decisions, which resulted in over $1 billion in annual savings. $1 billion. Or JP Morgan utterly transforming their operational efficiency. But then look at the cautionary tales in case study B. When Amazon tried using AI for recruiting, or when the Apple Card algorithm was widely accused of gender bias, they took massive hits to their brand. So what's the difference? The successful companies had tight AI governance and kept a human in the loop. The failures? They happen when companies just over-relied on algorithmic outputs without applying that critical human judgment we just talked about in Pillar 3.
360,000. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the sheer scale of what happens when you actually get this right. That's the number of lawyer hours saved annually by JP Morgan Chase using their coin system to review commercial credit agreements. A task that literally used to take human lawyers 360,000 hours is now done in seconds by AI. And crucially, it didn't replace the lawyers, it freed them up for much higher value strategic work.
But getting to that level of success means you have to navigate the 3 big dilemmas of real-world implementation. First up, the black box problem. Leaders just can't defend decisions if they don't understand how the AI arrived at its recommendation in the first place. That makes explainable AI, or XAI, absolutely mandatory. Second is culture and fear. You really have to navigate workforce anxiety around this idea of automation versus augmentation. And third is speed versus safety. Balancing the sheer velocity you need to stay competitive with the strict governance required to avoid regulatory disasters, it's the ultimate tightrope walk for today's executive. All right, part 4, the operational roadmap. Let's look at the 90-day transition. So how do you actually implement this without tripping over those dilemmas? We're going to give you the master blueprint right here. Transforming your decision architecture does not have to take years. In days 1 to 30, you focus entirely on audit and governance. You pinpoint your highest friction decision nodes and you set proper, safe operational boundaries. Then, days 31 to 60, you run augmentation pilots. This is a wins-first strategy. Deploy AI agents in low-risk executive workflows, like market intelligence aggregation, just to build some confidence early on. Finally, days 61 to 90, you move to scale and cultural alignment, where you actively upskill your management teams on collaborating with AI and verifying what it spits out. But listen, during this entire 90-day transition, there is one rule you must absolutely enforce, and that's accountability. We use the RAPID framework: recommend, agree, perform, input, decide. Even with the absolute best AI in the world, pulling brilliant insights from a flawless data lake, someone still has to own the final decision. One seat, one owner. Because if you let decision-making devolve into committee drift, where everyone has input but no one actually owns the outcome, your entire AI investment is going to be totally wasted. But if you commit to that roadmap and you enforce that accountability, this is the payoff. Traditional decision-making gives you your baseline returns. Upgrading to data-informed processes might double that. But organizations that fully invest in executive decision intelligence, they are seeing returns on investment ranging from 300 to 600%, according to McKinsey. The financial upside of accelerating your decision cycle time and improving your accuracy is just staggering. Okay, part 5. Let's wrap this up with the conclusion and the future blueprint. We've covered a ton of ground, so let's look ahead for a minute. The 2030 vision of the decision intelligent enterprise is just wild. We are quickly moving toward environments where autonomous agents execute routine operational decisions instantly. We're going to be using digital twins of our businesses to simulate entire, complex strategic scenarios before we ever commit a single dollar to them. And we'll rely on ambient computing interfaces where decision support is just seamlessly woven right into our daily workflows. Basically, every significant choice will be supported by an integrated fabric of data and machine intelligence. Which brings us to the absolute core takeaway of this entire explainer. Intelligent leadership isn't about mastering technical code. It's about designing environments where human wisdom and machine intelligence scale each other. You do not need to be a data scientist to lead in the AI era. You need to be an architect. You need to design the room where the absolute best human empathy and the sharpest machine analytics come together to win.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Is your team truly set up to succeed, or are you still relying on 20th century intuition to solve 21st century problems? If you are ready to finally make that shift from decision maker to system architect, check out the resources linked below this explainer to download the visual blueprint guide and the self-assessment rubric. It's time to start building. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.